What's up YouTube? Today we have this awesome submarine design. Now there's a link in the description to all the requirements you're going to need, including the palette, the free brush, as well as the canvas size. Now if you're new here, I post Procreate content every single week, so hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want even more tutorials from me, I post 3 exclusive tutorials over on my Patreon every single month. So hit the link in the description down below and come and show your support. And with all that said, let's get started. So now you've got your canvas, first thing we're going to do is use the empty layer that we get within our layers to start with. And if we go up to our colours and we've got our palette here, we're going to use this collection of colours here on the right hand side for our background. So let's just grab the top one in the far right column and drag it onto that empty layer. The next step will then be to go to the selection tool, make sure you're using the rectangle option and colour fill, and then we're going to go up to our colour. And we're going to switch it out for the second colour down in that far right column, slightly darker tone. And we're going to draw a box that covers up half of the bottom area of the canvas. And then simply tap on your selection tool when you're done. Then go to your adjustments, go to Gaussian Blur and swipe from left to right. And that will just nicely blend the two colours together. And we're going to go for something around about sort of 45%. And then tap on your adjustments when you're done. The next step then is to go to our colours once more, and we're going to grab the very bottom colour here on the palette, so very bottom right of the palette. We're then going to go ahead and go to our brush library. You're going to need to find the dust brush that's in the description down below. Now for me it's currently in the recents, but otherwise it'll be right at the very bottom for you in the imported section. So use the dust brush there, and we're going to make our brush size fairly large, about 40%. And just towards the top area, we're just going to gloss from left to right and just add in a little bit of this green colour, like so. Just blend that out towards the bottom. So just nice little speckles of colour towards the top. And then we're going to go back to our colours once more, and we're going to grab this colour here. So it's the one to the left of the one we were just using. So this one here. And then towards the bottom, we're just going to gloss backwards and forwards very lightly with my pressure. Just gloss over the top. And that will just give us a nice little coat of the texture. While we're working towards the background area, let's go ahead and start to put that in place. So let's go up to our layers and let's create a new layer. If we then go to our brush library, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go and find our calligraphy section, and we're going to use the Monoline Brush. We then need to switch our colour out, and we're going to use this collection of 3 colours here. So these are going to act as our little bit of land towards the bottom area. So we're going to grab this one here, so the top one in the column, and we're going to draw in our land. Now my brush size is currently maxed out, and that's fine. It's just a little bit of content here. I'm going to let this one run down here and then create a nice little ledge on the right. So it's a little bit uneven. We might even just bring that across a little bit more. And because we went edge to edge on our canvas, we can go ahead and drag and drop the colour into the corners there. And that is our little bit of landscape there. Now it is a very slight faint colour, but it will be more apparent later on. Let's then go to our layers once more and create another new layer and drag it underneath the one that we were just working on. Then go to your colours and switch it out for the next colour down in that column, which is this one here, right in the middle of our palette. And we're going to draw in our next set of wobbly lines for the background area. So I'm just going to bring in a line here that sort of runs into this space that we created, and then because I went edge to edge, I can drag and drop the colour in. We're going to go ahead and go once more and go to our layers, create another new layer, and drag it underneath the last one we were working on. And switch it to the final colour in that column, the very bottom one here. And we're just going to add in one more set of bumpy lines, this one a little bit higher in the background there. And that is going to be our final little bit of landscape down here, and drag and drop the colour into that space at the bottom. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is go to our colours. And we're going to go ahead and grab this green here, so just to the right of the column we were working with. We're then going to go back to our layer. We're going to tap on the layer and we're going to alpha lock it, which means no longer can we paint outside of it. Everything we paint will nicely be stuck inside the shape. Because then if we go to our brush, let's then go ahead and grab the dust brush. So you're going to need to find that brush again. So we've got the dust brush there. The brush size can stay as it was just before, and just very lightly towards the top area, we're just going to coat it with some texture and a little bit of that green colour. Look how cool that looks. Let's then go ahead and move to the next layer up and repeat the process. So go up a layer, tap on the layer and alpha lock it. And then again, just paint from left to right in this space, just adding in a nice light coat of colour on that top edge. And then go to your layers again and go up to the top layer, tap on it and alpha lock it. And again, just paint over the top edge with a little bit of this light color, and you want to make it a bit brighter than the one just in behind it there, so we can nicely see it. A little bit of green up and down these edges to just show that the light's coming down and just trickling onto it. Then go back to your layers, and we're done with all of those layers, so we can actually go ahead and pinch them together, and this will save on your layer count. So if we pinch all 3 of those layers together, they then end up on 1 layer. So that's now dealt with. Now the next step is to add in the light rays that are going to come down from the top here. So we're going to go ahead and go to our colors and switch out for the correct one, which is this color here. So just to the left of the far right column, the top color. We're then going to go ahead and go to our layers, create a new layer, go to your selection tool, and you should still have the rectangle option and color fill turned on, so that we can then create a rectangle that goes down the screen just like this, so something like that. Then tap on your selection tool when you're done. We're then going to go to our eraser now, tap on the eraser. We're going to go ahead and change it to the dust brush, so again you'll need to find it in the imported section, so use the dust brush. Let's increase the brush size up to something maybe about 30%. And what our goal is here is we first of all need to fade out this bottom edge just down here so it completely fades out to nothing. So we're just going to fade that out a little bit like this. And then this right hand side, more so towards the bottom, we're just going to chop away even more to get rid of that really sharp edge here. So I'm going to go up and down this edge, erasing that line, and then just blend in the rest. So we end up with it quite sharp and bold towards the top, and it really fading out towards the bottom. So that light ray is coming down from the top and fading out. And we want to get rid of this line here to make sure it's nice and faded out. What we're then going to do is use this layer and duplicate it multiple times to create a whole bunch of light rays from the top. So go to your layer and swipe it to the left and duplicate it. Grab your cursor, and then you can go ahead and you can flip it horizontally. You could use the freeform option and make it a little bit narrower, and then move it into its own place, so somewhere maybe here. Tap on your cursor when you're done, and that's another light ray. And we can just go back to the original layer every time, swipe it to the left and duplicate it, grab your cursor, move it across into another position, so somewhat maybe here. Let's then go back to our layers again. I can swipe that one to the left and duplicate it, so swipe it to the left and duplicate it, grab my cursor, maybe just move this one off to the left, leaving a little bit of a gap on the left hand side. And I could even compress that down in width as well, just so it's not overlapping. And we're just going to repeat that all the way across. So go back to your layers and just keep duplicating layers, dragging them across. We can drag one over here and go back to the layer and swipe it to the left and duplicate it. And don't worry, we're going to compress all of our layers down shortly, so don't worry about your layer count just yet. Let's flip this one horizontally. I'm going to leave a bit of a gap here so I can put a nice thin one in there. So tap on your cursor when you're done. Go back to your layer, swipe it to the left and duplicate it. Grab your cursor, use the freeform option, make it a little bit narrower. Pop it maybe in here. Tap on your cursor when you're done. And we're going to fill out the rest of the space over on the right. So go back to your layers and swipe it to the left and duplicate it. Grab a cursor and move it all the way. I'm going to move this one so it flips horizontally and actually fades all the way off to the right hand side of the canvas. A little bit like that. Tap on your cursor. I'm then going to go ahead and fill this space in here. So we're just going to grab a layer that I can see. Let's grab that one there, swipe it to the left and duplicate it. Grab my cursor and just move that into that space there. And maybe just make this one a little bit narrower. Tap on my cursor when I'm done. We want it to be nice and random, so you've got little gaps here and there, you've got big repetitive areas, but something like that looks pretty cool to me. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our layers and we're going to pinch all of those light rays into one. So pinch them all down like this into one layer. Then go ahead and grab your cursor, grab the distort option here, and all you need to do is just move this node out here just a little bit to the right, and grab this node and equally move it out to the left hand side. Something a little bit like that. That will give your rays a nice sort of angle to them, and then tap on your cursor when you're done. Now just to vary these up a little bit, you can continue with your eraser and maybe just fade out a little bit in the center. Maybe get rid of this one here where it sits in front of the rock. Maybe these ones here too that also sit in front of the rock, and maybe just blend that one up and out a little bit more. But just to add some variety, just randomly erasing so that the lines are all, you can see, a little bit sort of wavy. And there you go, there's your light rays from the top. You can always go in and adjust them if you want to tone a couple of the lines down a little bit, and also maybe again make them a little bit shorter. Something like that will do. The next step is to go ahead and of course work on our little submarine that we're going to add in. So let's go back to our layers and create another new layer at the top. Just in case you do want to save on your layer count, you can actually pinch those 3 layers together if you want, and that will act as your background. I'm going to undo that just for my layers, but you can do that just in case. So now you should have an empty layer right at the top. We're going to go to our colors, and these sets of colors here is going to be for our little submarine, and the middle row is the base colors followed by a highlight tone and a shadow tone. So we're going to grab the main yellow here in the middle of the first column. We're going to go back to our brush library. We're going to go back to our trusty Monoline Brush under calligraphy, and from there we're going to go ahead and draw in an ellipse in the middle of the screen. So we're going to draw in an ellipse like this, and then hold your pen down, it will turn it into a perfect one just like that, and we can let go at roughly that sort of size, and then drag and drop your color into that space. Now of course we want to just slightly adjust this so that the front end's a bit more rounded, and this also tapers down almost like an egg on its side. So we're going to go back to our cursor. We're just going to rotate this a smidge just in case yours is off angle just like mine is. Just rotate it till it's nice and horizontal. Then grab the warp tool, and we're just going to bring this sort of 9th down here, just squeeze that in and squeeze it in from the top as well. So this will nicely now give our little submarine a little bit of a sort of pointed tail. And then you can always bring this right hand side across just to the left, which will nicely round out the front. So you can see that we've got a bit more of an egg shape to it. And then tap on your cursor when you're done. Let's then go ahead and work on the 2 items that are going to sit in the background, which are the fins that sit underneath this layer. So go up to your layer, create another new layer and drag it underneath our main submarine body. Go up to your colors and grab the orange middle color. And then we're going to create the sort of propellers on the back, or the fins, whatever you want to refer to them as. Now I've dropped my pen size down to about 12%, and we're going to create a nice little sort of shape on the back here. So I'm going to create a diagonal line here. I'm going to pop my finger on the screen to make sure it's a nice angle, so something like that. From that point I'm going to go ahead and draw a cross like so. Pop my finger on the screen to make sure it's nice and horizontal, and then from that point draw down. We're going to come all the way down in a straight line, popping my finger on the screen. You can see there if I move my pen across it goes in increments, but we want this nice straight line to there. And then from that point we're going to go across and go underneath the submarine there. Now you will need to just draw in a line that you can see that links the 2 points together. So you could even do this if you wish and just link the 2 points together. Then drag and drop your color into that space. We can even go to our eraser now, tap on the eraser and switch it to the Monoline Brush. So it'll actually be under calligraphy for you too. So go down to calligraphy and the Monoline Brush. The only thing I'm going to do is just round off this corner just a little bit. So I'm going to reduce the brush size down to about 20%. I'm going to draw in an arc, hold my pen down, and then I can get a perfect arc. You can see there I can move that around, and I'm just going to let that nicely just curve out the corner there, make it a bit more rounded, a bit softer. Now I'm happy with that, so I'm going to go to my layers. I'm going to swipe the layer to the left and duplicate it. Then grab my cursor. Let's then flip it vertically and move it down. So we leave a little gap in the center because we've got a little fin that's also going to face us as well. So a little something like that. A little bit further down I think I can get away with, something like that. And tap on my cursor when I'm done. Now just to round off these 2 objects, we're actually going to highlight them and shadow them right now so that we can then merge them together and save on our layers. So let's go to our layer. We're working on the bottom one currently, so tap on that layer and alpha lock it, which means of course we can only paint within the boundary of it. And then we're going to go to our colors. We always start with the shadow color first, so grab the bottom tone first in the oranges, this one here. Then go back to your brush library. You're going to need to find your dust brush again. So once you've got your dust brush, we're going to go ahead and let's reduce that brush size down. We're going to make it about 20%, and we're going to add in a lot of texture here underneath. So you can see just as it curves around, I'm just adding in some texture in there, and we're going to add in some texture more so all over this little area here. We're then going to go to our colors. We're going to grab the highlight tone, so this one here at the top. Reduce the brush size down just a smidge, we're going to give a very light edge highlight just round the bottom here, and go round there like this, and then just the tiniest little bit of highlight just on there, just a little bit. So that's that one done. We can then go up to our layers, go up to the one above, so tap on it and alpha lock it also. Switch back to your shading color first, of course, so which is the bottom of the oranges here. And then we're going to shadow this one in. Now this one's just going to be shadowed more so just towards the bottom only, just a little bit like that. I'll fade that out towards the top. And then I'm going to go back to my colors. We're going to grab the highlight tone here on the top of the oranges, and we're going to brush that in all the way around this top area, curving our little hand movements as we go. And then with this one, we're just going to add in a tiny little bit of blue. So we're going to go to our colors. We're going to grab this bright blue here on the right. Now you want to be quite scarce with this, but we're just going to paint in a little bit of blue on the top there. That's the light coming right from the top area down onto our submarine. There we go, that's those two done. We can actually go to our layers and you can pinch them together to save on your layer count. While we're working towards the back area, we're going to go ahead and create a new layer above our body of our submarine. So create a new layer, go to your colors and grab this color here in the middle of the oranges, and go to your brush library. You're going to want to go down to calligraphy and the Monoline Brush. We're going to max this one out at 100% size, and we're going to match the line here. So we're going to start as best we can to there, drawing a line straight across, and pop your finger on the screen, and then that is going to be one of the ones that are facing us from a very sort of straight on view. Then go to your layer, tap on the layer and alpha lock it, go to your colors, grab your shadow color first, so the bottom of the oranges, go back to your brush and switch it back out for our dust brush. And we're just going to darken up the bottom area here, so pretty much 50% of it. Then go back to your colors and grab your highlight tone, the top of the oranges. Reduce that brush size down just for accuracy a little bit. I've gone down to about 4%. I'm going to give a slight under highlight, just a little one, and then add a nice highlight on the top edge, little something like that. And that's that layer done with also. Now at this stage, that is the widest that our submarine's going to be. So we're actually going to go to our layers and we're going to select all three of our layers there. So you swipe from left to right to select a layer. So you'll have this layer here, the two other fins at the back, and the main body of the submarine. Grab your cursor and just move that into the center of the canvas, making sure you hit the orange line down the center there, as well as the horizontal line as well. And I'm just going to make mine a little bit smaller. I'm going to pop it again, smack bang in the center. Once more till we hit those axis lines, just like that. Tap on our cursor when we're done. Now we're just going to add in sort of like a water effect towards the outside here, like the jet at the back. So we're going to go to our layers. We're going to create a new layer just above these ones here. So create a new layer, go to your colors. We're going to go ahead and grab this color here at the top of the third column to start with. And using your dust brush, we're just going to rotate this a little bit. I'm going to make the brush size roughly around about sort of 15%. We're just going to sort of push out some of this nice speckled color out to the left hand side there, which is just going to look like there's a bit of a jet there, and it's also in front of those blades, which looks pretty cool. And then on there, we're actually going to then grab our colors and double tap in the top left hand corner to select white. Reduce the brush size down to about 6%. And just in here, just add in the odd little sort of speckle and drop of white, which is just going to look like sort of the water and the air pushing through the water. Reduce your brush size down even smaller if you need to, and just add in smaller little specks there in the water, maybe even just little dots to just show we've got a lot of air moving in here where the jets are really pushing out. So just add in a little bit of white under there. And there we go, your submarine's got a little bit of velocity to it. Now zooming out, we can then go ahead and now to start working on the actual body of the submarine, but we're missing a few items here, of course. So the first one to do is the little window that's going to sit here. So for the window, we're going to go up to our layers. We're going to go ahead and tap above our submarine and create a new layer above it. We're going to go to our colors. We're going to grab this middle tone here of the third column. go back to your brush library, go back to calligraphy and the monoline brush. You can see we're jumping between the monoline and the dust brush, so monoline under calligraphy. And we're going to go ahead and draw in our little window that's going to sit on the side here. So I'm drawing in a circle. You hold your pen down at the end, which gives you an ellipse, but if you pop your finger on the screen, you get a nice perfect circle. And we're going to create that there, drag and drop our colour in, and then grab your cursor and just move it so it just runs nicely through this little sort of blade on the left hand side there. And tap on your cursor when you're done. So zooming out, that's kind of our positioning. Now we're going to go ahead and shade this in as we go. So let's go to our layer, let's tap on the layer and alpha lock it so we can only paint within it, of course. Let's then go to our colours. We start with our shading colour as always, so it's the bottom one out of the three. Then go to your brush library, go to the option of the dust brush, so you're going to need to find that again, textures and the dust brush. Now for this, we're going to go ahead and make our brush size about 15%. We're going to darken up pretty much the bottom half. You can see I'm sort of working in a curved motion here, just to darken up this bottom area, so just curving this round like so. We're then going to go ahead and just darken up the very top edge, just a little bit like so. And then we're going to switch it out to our highlight tone, so go back to your colours. Let's then grab the top colour here in that third column. Reduce the brush size down just a smidge on this occasion, down to about 8%. And at the bottom area here, we're just going to add in a little sort of reverb highlight, just to make that window look like it's nice and glossy and shiny. So a little something like that. And then we're going to go ahead and do the highlight on the top area. I'm going to increase my brush size up to about 12% on this occasion. And I'm just going to create a nice curve. Now don't worry if you go over your shadow at the top here. We can always go back and add it back in. So just going to curve over the top there. I'm then going to do exactly that. I'm going to go back to my colours and grab the shadow colour at the bottom of the three colours for this area. Reduce the brush size down to about sort of 6 or 7% just for accuracy. And let's really darken up this top edge. And this will give us a nice little shadow at the top there. And then if you need to, just blend on top of your highlight like so. Now the next step is to actually go to our colours, and we're just going to add in a really bright highlight on here. So we're going to double tap in the top left hand corner to select white. Reduce your brush size down to about 5%, and just right on the peak here of our little highlight, very lightly backwards and forwards, build up the colour until you leave a beautiful nice little highlight there right on that top edge. And you can even maybe just in the centre here, just add a little bit of white on that underside. That's really going to make that window nice and circular, nice and round, and we've got all this beautiful detail in there. Now we want to give this kind of like a frame, a little orange frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to our layers. We're going to swipe the layer to the left and duplicate it. Now the top one out of the two, just grab your cursor, and using the uniform option, just grab the node in the top right and just scale this down in size a little bit, and then put it back in the middle of that little area. Now I'm going to make mine a smidge smaller again, just so I've got a nice area around the outside to play with. And then tap on your cursor when you're done. Now you could leave it just like this, but I'm going to go ahead and change it to orange. I want some nice little orange accents on here. So I'm going to go back to my layer. It's already alpha locked, which is great. So we can then go up to our colours. We can grab the orange middle tone. Go back to your layer and tap on the layer and fill it. Now we're just going to have to shade that back in. So we're just going to go to our colours. Grab your shading colour first of all, so at the bottom of the oranges. And because it's only just a really small area around the outside, we can nicely do this kind of quickly and easily. So about 10%, we're just going to darken up the very bottom area here. In the same fashion, nice curved motion. It's not too much of a change there, but if we then go to our colours and grab the highlight tone that sits on top, this little light orange, we're then going to just add in that highlight over the top edge. So just blend that around the top area. But to really emphasize this and the fact that this window is sort of bulging outwards towards us, we're going to go to our colors. We're going to grab this color here at the bottom of the green column. So this bottom one here. And just under here, in a circular motion, just following the curvature of the window. You see I'm drawing right underneath the window more so. I'm just going to darken that area up just under there. And that's going to act as like a nice little shadow underneath there. And let's also reflect that there's a highlight coming from the top. So let's go back to our colours. Let's grab this light blue here on the right hand side, second from right column. And just very lightly, just on this top edge, backwards and forwards. And that will give you a nice little highlight on that area too. And you can even just very lightly just coat that down, which gives you that beautiful little dust speck as you go all the way around. Now we've got our really cool little window on the side. We obviously need a front window, and we're not going to do that twice. We're just going to simply go ahead and go to our layers. You can at this point merge the two circles together, so pinch them together. Grab your layer and swipe it to the left and duplicate it. Then the bottom one out the two. Tap on it and clip it to the body of the ship. Then grab your cursor, scale it up in size just almost like that, and move it over to the right hand side. You can even move it down a little bit more, so like this, just to add in a bit more of a highlight. But something positioning wise like this should do the trick. And you've got a nice front window there. Tap on your cursor when you're done. And there we go, our ship's got nice little windows there, front and back. And there we go, your submarine now has a window on the side and a window on the front, nice and easily done, using the same assets we've already made. So next we're actually going to go ahead and highlight the body before we add in sort of the telescope area at the top. So we're going to go to our layers. We're going to go down to the main body, tap on it and alpha lock it. And we're going to start colouring that in the same principle. So we're going to go to our colours. We're going to grab the bottom colour of our yellows. We're going to make the brush size roughly around about sort of 25%, just so we can cover some good ground with it. And I'm just going to rotate my canvas so I can easily cover this. We're going to go ahead and darken up the underside here, following the curvature of our little ship, or submarine should I say. So that's now following that curvature. We're then going to go ahead and just add in a dark shadow just over the top edge, which we're probably going to lose quite quickly and easily. We're then going to go to our colours and grab the lighter tone here at the top of the yellows. We're going to add in our little highlight that runs across the bottom edge. So just go backwards and forwards, just right outside the object, just like this. And then reduce the brush size just a smidge to about 18% and just highlight on the top there the nice little highlight that's coming down from the top area. Move it down towards the window. Now one thing I do want to do is I'm going to just reduce the brush size down to 10%, and just above the window I'm going to really make sure this is nice and highlighted. So I'm just backwards and forwards, just trying to highlight just in behind the window to make it look like it sort of bulges outwards a little bit more. And then what we're going to do is we're going to introduce a very dark tone. So we're going to go to our colours. We are going to grab this colour here at the bottom of the third column, but we do need to be really very, very light with this. So we're going to go ahead and just introduce it into this area here, just streaking across, very lightly, just blend that up. It will add a lot of colour. You see, if I press with some good pressure, it gets really dark too quickly. We just want to add in a nice bit of detail that just sits under here. Try not to run into your highlight too much. And then in certain areas we just need to emphasize that there would be shadows casted, such as underneath the window. So in a circular motion just under here, you can see it just drew in a circle like that, and we've just added a nice casted shadow underneath the window there. I'm also going to do the same just over here. So I'm drawing in a circular motion, introducing a nice shadow underneath the window. And then also over here, where this sort of blade sticks out, I've reduced my brush size down to about 9% here. I'm just going to draw in a shadow that's casted from it, just like so. And then from there, I may just go ahead and just darken up my shadow with 1 or 2 more strokes in here that's just a little bit darker. Little something like that. Look at that shading come to life. Look how cool that looks. And then what we'll also do is we'll go up to our colours and grab the light blue in the far right column. So just this one here, or second from far right. And then in this lighter area here, just brush in a little bit of that blue. So just following the curvature of the edge and then blend that out. So this is just going to add a little bit of colour coming from the top. There we go. And there we go, our body of our submarine's done. We just need to add in the area on the top. So to do this, it's really simple. We go up to our layers. We're going to go right to the top. We're going to create another new layer. We're going to go to our colours, and we're going to grab the middle yellow colour. We're going to go back to our brush library, and we're going to go ahead and use the calligraphy option of the Monoline Brush. Just going to reduce that down in size just a little bit to about 30%. And we're going to draw in an ellipse. So just draw in an ellipse like so. Pop your finger on the screen to make sure it's nice and perfectly sized, something like this. Grab your cursor, just move that so it runs perfectly into the center of that circle. Again, using snapping, you can do that. And I'm going to even use the freeform option just to flatten this down a little bit more. So a little something like that. Tap on your cursor when you're done. And drag and drop your colour into that space. We're then going to go to our layer. We're going to swipe it to the left and duplicate it. And make sure you grab the bottom one out of these two here. Grab your cursor and just move that down. Nice and vertically straight down. Which again, using snapping will let you know that. You need to make sure it's perfectly on the body. So just at least on the edges here, it's gone all the way down. Tap on your cursor when you're done. And then with your brush, should still be the monoline brush, which it is. We're just going to connect these edges here. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to draw in a straight line down, pop my finger on the screen to make sure it's nice and straight, and then just colour that in this area here. So we're creating sort of the rounded side here, drawing a straight line down again, and fill in that gap. And there we go, we've got a nice sort of disc shape here. We can then go to our layers. Let's tap on both layers, so tap on it and alpha lock it. Tap on the top one and alpha lock that one too. Now we can paint inside of those. So let's go to the top one which we're working on, go up to your colours. I want this to be primarily somewhat blue because the light's coming right down on top, so we're going to grab this blue here. We're going to go back to our brush library and we're going to use that lovely little dust brush again. It's the brush we're going to use all the time throughout this. And then we're just going to go backwards and forwards on this top area with a light coat of colour, potentially just a little bit brighter on this edge. There we go, just a little bit of colour like so. And then on the sort of bottom area, we're going to go to our layers. We're going to go down to it, go to your colours, grab the dark tone for the shading, and just simply darken up the edges here, blending that into the centre, and darken up round here, and blend it round to the centre. Then go back to your colours, grab your highlight tone in the top of the yellows, and just sort of add in a little bit of colour in the centre, blend that out to the sides. Probably get away with a little bit more colour in there. And then right on the edges, just the tiniest little bit that's just going to bring round the edge. Just a little bit like so on either side. And then zooming out, we've got the top area done. And if you want to, you could actually then go up to your layers, pinch the two layers together, then grab your cursor and just potentially just with the uniform option, just scale that down in size just a little bit. Mine's a little bit too big, but yours may vary. I'm just going to scale mine down and pop it straight back on top there. We then just need the scope that's going to sit on the top. So we're going to go up to our layers and create another new layer. Let's then go to our brush library. We're going to go to calligraphy and the monoline brush. Let's max that size out. And then we're just going to go ahead and draw in a line straight up. Pop your finger on the screen. And then just beside it, we're going to do that again. We're going to draw in another line up, put your finger on the screen just to make it a little bit more chunky. There we go. And just going to link them perfectly at the top there. Then go to your layer, swipe it to the left and duplicate it. Grab your cursor and rotate it 45 degrees twice, so 90 total. And then just connect that on the top there to create a nice right angle. A little bit like that. Tap on your cursor when you're done. And then we can go ahead and just chop off the bottom here. So go back to your layers and pinch those two together. Grab your eraser, tap on your eraser and making sure you're using the monoline brush. We can just simply chop away at the bottom of here to draw in a straight line across, pop your finger on the screen. Lovely. And then what you'll just need to do is just round off the corners ever so slightly. Just the tiniest little rounding there. Then grab your cursor and just move that so that the base here just sits in the center of your little disc that you made. And tap on your cursor when you're done. Now we're not going to spend too much time on this highlights wise, we're going to be quite quick with it. So we're going to go up to our layers and tap on it and alpha lock it. We're going to go to our colors first of all, and then we're going to grab this color here in the middle of the third column. Go to your brush. We're going to go back to that dust brush. I'm going to go back up to recent for me, and you can do the same as well. You can go up to recent at the top and switch between the monoline and the dust brush if you wish. On the very end here, we're just going to, in a circular motion, reduce the brush size down. We're just going to curve this to create sort of the lens right on the end. So just darkening that up, but following suit with the color scheme. We're then going to go to our colors and grab the darker version of that tone and just darken it up at the bottom, just like so. And then go to your colors and grab the lighter tone at the top of that column. Little highlight towards the bottom edge, little highlight on the top edge, and that's the lens done. we just need to add in some shaded onto here. So go up to your colors. Let's grab the darkest tone in the yellow column first of all. We're going to go ahead and darken up here. So it's straight line up and down. Just keep dropping that down all the way up to the right hand edge there. And then leave a gap and then go ahead and introduce it on the far left hand side all the way up to the top here. So you leave a little gap there of the original colour. And then we're also going to go ahead and just add in a shadow under here. Now be careful not to go into your blue area too much. So just add in that little shadow there underneath. You can make this quite nice and defined. And then go to your colours and grab your highlight tone, so the top of the yellow column. Just on the top edge here, we're going to go ahead and brighten this up. Go right up close to your blue area. Add in a little bit of a reverb highlight underneath. And then just a tiny little bit in this gap that we left. Just a little something like that. And then there we go, that is the top of our submarine, a little scope on the top area. So now we need to move on to the environment that's going to sit at the front here and then move on to the rest of the design. So we're going to go up to our layers and we're going to create a new layer right at the top. We're going to go to our colours and we're going to grab the Seaweed colour, which is this one here, the top of the 6th column. We're then going to go to our brush library, the Monoline Brush. And as I mentioned, you can use the recent option right at the very top of your brushes because we're jumping between two. Just go right to the top of your brush library and switch between the Monoline and the dust brush. They're the only two brushes we're going to be using. And then we're just going to create some seaweed. So we're going to start at the bottom with a little point, just create some nice wobbly, beautiful, wavy lines. They don't have to match on either side either. They can be completely random and just let that run into a point. And then drag and drop your colour in. So we only want a few that go quite high. We don't want too many that go that high. So from there, I'm going to create another one that just sits down here. And then just let that line just run into the top of that point. Drag and drop the colour in. And we're going to create a few of these over here. So we're just going to create another little one. This one here is super wavy. And just let that run into there. Drag and drop the colour in. And then we're going to move over to the right hand side. So do 3 on either side to start with. So you kind of want to mimic what you've got in a sense. So we've got one really tall one. So I'm just going to do one, but it doesn't go quite as high. So just a little wavy line like this. Run it into a point. And then drag and drop your colour in. Let's then continue to create some more. So another one here, there's a little wavy line. Drag and drop your colour in after every single one. And then I'm going to create one more that just runs a little bit higher, and I'm also going to run it kind of close to this one here. Just a little bit like that, and then drag and drop the colour in. Now we've got some seaweed all ready to go. We're going to go ahead and go to our layers. We're going to create another new layer and drag it underneath that one. So they're going to be our front runners. And we're going to then introduce some more seaweed that sits in behind. So don't be afraid to draw in some seaweed that does actually run in behind certain other layers. So like I did beforehand, just there, I've dropped the colour into here. I'm then going to introduce another one here. So we're creating like a nice little patch of seaweed here. Drag and drop the colour in. And they do look good if you do have a little bit of overlap. But it's not critical, but it does look pretty good. I'm just going to add in another wavy one over here. Drag and drop the colour in. Now I would advise not going to the very edge because we're not going to see them anyway, and plus we don't want anything to be cut off. And then I'm going to introduce maybe one more just in here. Proper skinny one in there, and drag and drop the colour in. And I'm going to move across to the right hand side and introduce some more in the background here. So a little curve, just let that one run just a tiny bit in behind there. Drag and drop the colour in. And let's continue with that pattern. So just a little bit of seaweed, just this one's a nice tall one. Drag and drop that in. I'm going to introduce one just over here, just on the side. Drag and drop the colour, and I'll introduce another one just in here, very small one. Just into there, and drag and drop the colour in. Now at the minute they don't look like too much, but let's go ahead and add some extra colour in. So let's go up to our layers, let's work on the top one out the two, tap on it and alpha lock it, then go to your colours and grab the tone that sits underneath it, so this nice green colour, so this one here. Then go back to your brush library and switch it out to the dust brush. With my brush set to about sort of 25%, You can see if I start to paint in here, we're going to start to really add some nice color and nice detail onto this seaweed. So I'm going to brighten up these ones here, and then of course the ones on the right hand side as well, fading that down towards the bottom. Now these are going to be our front runners, so we want them to be nice and bright. So we're also going to go back to our colors, and we're going to grab this brighter tone here on the right hand side, so the second from right column, and then we're just going to add in some color into these little bits of seaweed here, and this will really separate them from the ones that are in behind. So also do it onto here as well. Oh, lovely, look how bright they look awesome. Let's then go to our layers. Let's then go down a layer to the background set and tap on them and also alpha lock them. Go back to your colors and switch it back out to this green color here in the middle of the palette. And let's go ahead and add some color onto them as well. So just a little bit of color to start with. And we can see what that looks like when we do. And just literally just fade in this little bit of color in, more so brighter towards the top. And I'm actually tempted now to also grab the cursor for this layer and just move them down so they sit a lot lower. So a little something like that. Tap on your cursor when you're done, and then go to your colors and grab the highlight tone here on the right, the second from right column. And then this we can just add in here. It shouldn't interrupt our larger ones that sit in the front area, but be a bit sparing with it, don't add too much. So just a little bit of extra highlight on these ones. You can see I've got a little blade just in there and a little one in there. That's looking awesome. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to our layers. This layer here we made in the background, we're going to swipe it to the left and we're going to duplicate it. The bottom one out the two, grab your cursor. Let's first of all flip it horizontally. And let's also, with the uniform option, maybe scale it down in size. So we're bringing it kind of into the center. We're making these ones a bit smaller. A little something like this. Then tap on your cursor when you're done. Grab your adjustments and go to hue, saturation and brightness. And if we lower this brightness down to about 40 or 42%, we can add in some nice darker ones there that just sit right in the background. And then go back to your cursor if you wish, and maybe just change the angle of this. Maybe go freeform and just make them a bit taller. Maybe make them a little bit wider actually, just a little bit so it sits in the background. But these are just some darker blades that are just going to sit in behind and just add a little bit more depth. And tap on your cursor when you're done. Now what we're going to do is add the bubble that this is all going to sit in. So we're going to go back to our layers. You can pinch all your seaweed together if you wish, save on your layers. Then go right up to the top, create a new layer, go to your colors, and we're going to grab this tone here in the far right column, the top color. I'm going to go to our brush library and go back to the Monoline Brush. So I'm going to make my brush size a bit bigger. I'm going to make it up to 100% here, and we're going to draw in the wobbly line that's going to go around the outside. So make it nice and wobbly, nice and fun. You want to kind of get quite close to the corners, but just leave a little gap here and there so we can fit in some nice bubbles. Just let that run all the way into here. You want your lines to run nice and smooth into each other, so you may just need to adjust that like I just did. And then drag and drop your colour in. Now if you're not too happy with how yours looks, first of all, you can just go to your eraser if you want, or redo it. But if you can go to your eraser, and with it being set to the Monoline Brush, you could maybe just, first of all, increase the brush size up and just erase, away into it and reveal more. So you could just adjust that line if you want to. So I'm just going to adjust mine just so it goes a bit more rounded towards that top left corner. But this is then when we add in using the eraser. So go to the eraser and make sure it's set to the Monoline Brush. We're just going to erase some bubbles. So just draw in some nice rounded circles. Don't have to be nice and neat in terms of perfect circles. We're just going to draw in some nice little bubble areas like so. You can do the odd perfect circle, or otherwise you can make them nice and rounded. And you can even just tap at 100% to create a nice little bubble. I've got a bit of space up here as well, so I can create a nice bubble in this corner, erase the center. I've only got a small amount of space. I'm just going to tap a few times here just to create some bubbles. I might even exaggerate this one a little bit more. And then down here in the bottom left, we can create a nice rounded sort of jelly bean shape for a bubble. Fill this in, and then also a nice bubble above it. That's going to reveal some of our seaweed in there. And maybe just in here we can create a nice bubble. Maybe some more sort of perfect circles in this area down here. So nice and tidy, and then a couple of little bubbles off to the side. And then taking a look at that, I think the only option here is I'll just create another bubble up in this corner here because I've got a bit of space up in that area. And I'm just going to add in a couple of little dots here and there to add in some more space. Now this is where we then also add in some texture on this layer too. We're not quite done yet, but we are very nearly there, I promise. So in this layer, we're going to go ahead and go to our layers. I'm going to swipe this layer to the left and we're going to duplicate it. We're going to go ahead and on the top layer, tap on it and alpha lock it, and we're going to paint this in first. So we're going to go up to our colors. Let's first of all grab the slightly darker tone over here on the right hand side. So the middle color, and then go back to your brush library, go to the dust brush, make it nice and big, about 47% mine's at now. If not, I could go even bigger. Let's actually max it out. Yeah, it's perfect. And we're just going to just nicely add in some darker tone towards the bottom and blend that up towards the middle area. Not too higher up than there, but just like that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to our colors and we're going to introduce the nicer, brighter tone. We're going to grab this color here in the bottom right of the palette. And then from there, we're just going to gloss over the top area again, very lightly. Just a little bit of color there. And then go to your colors. And we're going to grab this tone here, just to the left of it, the darker tone. And towards the bottom area, just gloss this in left to right. More so towards the bottom, not too high up, but just a little bit of color towards this bottom area. Now at the minute this is not yet looking like a bubble, and it's very quick and easy to do this. We're going to go up to our layers. The second layer out of the two we've got at the top for these frames, tap on the layer and alpha lock it. Go back to your colors and we're going to grab this color here in the bottom right of our palette, so this one here. We're going to go back to the layer, tap on the layer and fill it with that color. We're then also going to go to our colors and double tap in the top left hand corner to select white. Go to our selection tool and the rectangle option here and color fill, and just draw a box that's half of the screen and then let go. Now you won't see any visual change, but tap on your selection tool when you're done. If you go to your thumbnails, you'll notice this layer now is split between white and that green color. We just need to Gaussian blur them together. So go to your adjustments, Gaussian blur, and swipe from left to right and just add in a sort of 30% Gaussian blur there. And tap on your adjustments when you're done. Again, no visual change just yet. We're doing all the prep work at this point. Then we can go ahead and change the layer from normal to add. Tap on the layer and turn off its alpha lock. And then if we go up to our adjustments, Gaussian blur, and swipe from left to right, bring in this really cool little effect here that's going to give us a much more of a bubble look to it. So I'm going to bring that in, and I'm going to bring it in to, I'm going to go for something about sort of 30% here. And then we're going to go ahead and tap on our adjustments when we're done. Now there's a couple of extra things we're just going to do very quickly. We're going to go back to our eraser, tap on the eraser. We're going to switch it out to the texture brush of the dust brush that we've been using. Reduce the brush size down to about 8%, and in the center of these bubbles just erase the center area. Because they're very small, they would have got filled in completely. So we just want to just erase the center areas like so, just to give them that nice bubble look. There's not too much going on down here in terms of white, but it's actually gone really green. So we're just going to erase the centers of these. And we're also going to erase the center of this one here too. And this one here. And erase the center of all the bubbles. And because we're using this dust brush, you're going to end up with that beautiful bit of texture running around the outside. Now there's one extra step just to make this look a little bit more like a bubble. We're going to go up to our colors. We're going to make sure we're still using white, double tap in the top left hand corner. We're going to go to our layers and we're going to create another new layer. Let's make our brush size roughly around about sort of 25%. And you want to be very light with this. Just follow the curvature of the little bubble here towards the top area. And then in the center, just brighten that up just a little bit more. And then in the corners down here, I'm going to reduce the brush size down to about 19% and just add in a little bit of white curvature, following the shape. A little bit of a curve here as well. And then we can even reduce our brush size down to about sort of 10%. And then in the center of this one at the top here, just really brighten it up in the center. Pinch with two fingers, go full screen with 4, and you end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. As always, be sure to drop a like down below, helps the channel out an awful lot. And if you're new here, I post Procreate content every single week, so hit that subscribe button down below. But if you want even more tutorials from me, there's a link in the description also to my Patreon, where you can get 3 exclusive tutorials every single month, as well as shout outs and videos, sneak peeks, and much more. So hit the link in the description down below and come and show your support. And if you're interested in any of the equipment I'm using, today's equipment list is the Nimble Sleeve by Upper, the Pen Tips glove, this is the Ghost Paper screen cover, again from Upper, and the Sketchboard Pro that you can always use code JoelCreate to get yourself 10% off of. So have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.